Hello, guys. Welcome, everybody, to Purple Haze Podcast. I am your lovely host, Isaac, here. So, I was going to talk about if KOC was on the hot seat or should he be fired or that tush push, but I'm actually going to. It's already been talked about enough. There's no point really in dragging on the conversation of that, really. To me, anyways. People have made their opinions. They say it was KOC's fault, which, alright. Which I don't think it is, but all right. But I'm going to talk about the Vikings are expected to start Nick Mullens. I mean, it's not like official that they are going to, but it's basically going to have to be. But what I honestly have to say about that, really, about Nick Mullens' performance out there, he did okay. But still ultimately at the end of the day, those interceptions costed us the game really on Saturday. Those two interceptions, one where he threw right to the defender and one where he was about to go down stack instead got rid of it and hit the defender right there and got the interception. I mean, basically, it ultimately leaves 6 points off the board. So that's 30 points right there that the Vikings could have won that game. And I know ultimately the tush push costed us, and ultimately the defense giving up 3 touchdowns didn't help either. But I mean, ultimately, Nick Mullens, I mean, yes, he had some nice moments, but this goes way beyond the two interceptions that he had against the Cincinnati Bengals. This goes way beyond it. There were so many times where screen passes were thrown off a bit over the top instead of right on target. That's a bit concerning, really, which basically leaving them up for grabs so the defense can easily tee off on the receivers or the running backs. But I mean, Nick Mullens, I mean, no doubt he did some good things, but there were some plays and some throws that were just errant that I saw. And he's got good playmakers which were able to bail him out of those bad throws or those bad decisions, really. So I don't think really. Does Nick Mullens deserve another chance? Maybe, but with the playoffs on the line, really, you're 7-7. You're still holding on to the 6th seed by the skin of your teeth. But but also the turnovers are really going to ultimately cost you the game. You got 3 more games. You got 2 against the Lions, 2 games against the Lions. You got 1 against the Green Bay Packers. Ultimately, if you are going to put Nick Mullens out there, I mean, I disagree with that if they are going to, because because if he costed the Bengals game and ultimately could have shifted the playoffs if other things did not go our way. I mean, granted, we do have a game up behind a lot of teams, but ultimately they're breathing down your neck, so you can't really afford to really just lose another game or anything like that or give a game away. Ultimately, these are the games that really matter, but I would really consider I would be hesitant on starting Nick Mullens against the Lions really next week on Sunday, but I would be really hesitant to do that, but I mean, that's just me. I mean, he ultimately did cost you turnovers, really. Because if you're going to go into playoffs, then you can't have hiccups like this. I would see what Jaron Hall does because I know got promoted really to QB2. That's nice and all, but he ultimately needs to be the starter, I would say, for the rest of the way. I mean, I would I would be more than willing to give Jaron Hall a shot to get this team where it needs to be. And very possibly win a championship. I don't know with Jaren Hall, but you consider, I mean, he looked good against the Falcons, really. I know it's just one anomaly of a drive that Jaren Hall put out, but that's before he got injured. But that's not quite enough. I just want to know why Kevin O'Connell does not want to start Jaren Hall and Nick Mullens is in front. I just kind of want to know why that is. I disagree with Kevin O'Connell on starting Nick Mullens, but ultimately, if Jaren Hall, I mean, if Nick Mullens does a good job, it doesn't turn the ball over, fantastic. But ultimately, we already know what we know with Nick Mullens, though. We already know who he is. But Jaren Hall, as of right now, I would go with him for the rest of the way for the last 3 games and see who he is. Because who knows exactly what this dude is capable of. He's not just he's a good dual threat quarterback. He's a good pocket passer as well. So if you wanted to do a Kirk Cousins like playbook or something, then I think Jaren Hall can fit that pretty well, actually. So you can do that with him, really. So ultimately, I'm a bit disappointed, really, but it's not official. It's not official, which I'm hoping they start Jaren Hall, but ultimately, Nick Mullens, as of right now, he's expected to start versus the Lions, so we will ultimately see what happens against the Lions, because if he does screw up or gets hurt, which I don't wish for injuries, don't get me wrong, but besides the injury, which is the only way that Jaren Hall is going to start, but if the mistakes also happen, it might ultimately cost you the Lions game, which I don't want really to happen, because really, if you're wanting to keep the NFC North division title alive, and if you're willing to basically get a leg up ahead in the playoffs, you can't be losing this game, really, or any other game, really, throughout the rest of the season. So, I mean, Nick Mullens is going to be the starter. All right, but we'll see how it goes, really, ultimately, though. So we'll go ahead and do a preview on Friday. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Skol.